engage on meetings during this week. So Septimus, are we ready to record? It's already recording.
Yay, I was ready.
Perfect. Nice. So, since it's the topic of the hour, we can talk about what are you excited for this week? Could be December, could be the Coinbase ad on the Super Bowl, could have been the Super Bowl. Like, what are you excited about on this week, even if it's related to December or outside of December? And if it is about December, share about what specifically are you excited about. So I will pass it on to Nate to kick us started.
Oh man, okay. Well, first let's talk about that Coinbase ad. That QR code bouncing around the screen. I thought it was amazing. I was like, I should probably do it, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to put my phone up to that and see where it goes. But yeah, it was very interesting ad. I'm excited about this week. Am I excited about this week? I have a lot to do this week. I am kind of very much overwhelmed. I'm going to be taking over Tam's duties, so it's a lot of stuff to do. I never realized how much work she actually does, and and this is a good picture of it. So yeah, I'm just I'm excited to get the ball rolling and see how I can help out with Communitas. I will pass it on to Gideon.
Thanks, Nate. What's got me excited? Actually, you know what? We've been talking about ramping up Medium publishing and getting writers organized for TEC, and so this week I'm gonna dig into kind of the next phase of that, kind of like planning around that, and so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about. I'm not quite as excited, but like the fact, the frequently asked questions and like just like trying to kind of help with that a little bit, and then, and then also just taking some of the learnings from this meditation retreat and just like consolidating that because it was great. Okay, I will pass on to Septimus.
Thanks, Gideon. I'm actually excited for this retro. I just read your forum post, Nate, about adding some new cool things to the retro. I think that would be great. I don't know if you plan to do it this week, but yeah, I'm excited for that. And I'm not going to Denver. I'm excited to see pictures of my friends being together. I'm being jealous for not being there. I don't know. Yeah, probably that. And I'll pass it to Vince.
Hi. What am I excited for? I actually have some. I wasn't going to eat Denver, and I might not still. I'm just debating whether I should try to do something out there. I have some other friends who are going to be in Colorado as well, so it's even more tempting from high school that I haven't seen for a while. So I was kind of thinking about an impromptu trip, but I have a lot of other stuff I also want to get done staying put. So, yeah, either way, whatever I end up doing, I'm excited for it. So, I will pass to Yanesi.
Thank you. Well, I'm really excited about the Denver. I'm not there, so but I'm happy because the team is there. So we have a very strong representation in Denver. What else? Well, I'm starting new things this week. And I'm struggling a little bit with my time management. I think I need to focus more in certain things that are needed to be done, like soon. Well, that's yeah, that's all. I pass it to Douglas.
So I have a time management framework that you might want to try out. just get a hold of me offline, FYI. Let's see, what am I excited about this week? Yeah, I'm excited to bring the stuff that I've learned over the last couple of weeks to the TEC, talking about some structural changes to perhaps help us identify things earlier, and I was excited to be in the labs call with Livy and Sean, talking about maybe find some way to get a little blinking red light on the community in terms of where we are, and there's some neat stuff going on over there in lab. So and then once we have that signal, then I think we've got some other tools that we could bring in, like liberating structures that might help us to be able to respond to those. So that would complete the process. So that's really a cool thing. So I'm just excited to keep revising and evolving the community, with the new information we all seem to have. So not sure who's going next, because I feel like I came a little late.
No worries, I can take it. I'm excited because I am seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in a way. So there are a few things that I'm referring regarding this. One of that, it's this kind of exchange with other communities that we are trying to accomplish with RomDAO and so on. And then I started collaborating with the NS DAO because it sounds silly to me, and it still sounds silly to me, but I don't know. I felt that most of the things that we do here are a little bit of common sense, and I feel they are normal. They should be normal, like empathy, like just asking, like having the calls open, like all this stuff for me, or the things that Septimus does about recording the calls and stuff. For me, these kind of things are kind of something that, I mean, if you're a DAO and you're decentralized, you should do it, because otherwise, how do you accomplish this level of transparency and accessibility? But it seems that's not the case. And even for a server like ENS who has 40K users, there is no onboarding. They have nothing. They have no onboarding. They have zero idea of how the things. They have no, like, this simple thing of a public agenda. They did not have it. The very, very specific things are not that complex. So, and we are talking about a protocol or a product that it's not a small one, And for me, I'm excited to work on that and see how we sort of adapt TC model to a bigger scale. I mean, we have 2K users here in the TC. That's not the double. That's 400 times the amount of people that we have here. And so it's interesting. I'm excited about that. Just to like try it out and push to the limit our system, if we can call that in a way. So I'm excited about that. So we have a proposal up on the forum for voting. I don't know, Durgaras, Gideon, Nate, if you have voted for it. If you haven't, please go and vote. Regarding specifically this proposal, there is this document that I don't know if you guys have seen it, and this is specifically most for people who are like guides, but also it's for someone who is on the special project. It could be, for example, Durgaras, if you want to take over the user journey, remember this part, or it could be for the storytelling workshop. Whatever falls into the category of the community, there is a budget allocated for special projects. It could be also for the podcast, Nate, that we talk about, and all this stuff. And this is just a referral for being on the same page. It's a contributor agreement. I don't know if the other working groups will do it, but in our case, it's just a way to be accountable. Like in the case of the guides, if you commit to say hello to everyone every week, there should be also from our side a commitment to that. Yes, Lucas. Sorry.
Yeah, I would like to work on a proposal around transparency, which I kind of proposed in the transparency meeting this morning, but I'm not sure how to do proposals. So like I challenged the newer folks to actually try to start the process of proposals, and then maybe we can workshop it a little bit. But I would sure appreciate somebody, helping me figure out how I can make a proposal like that, because I actually think that the mandate of the transparency group should be quite a bit greater than it is, and that there should be some infrastructure for us to make it so that transparency is more obvious in every working group, and as a kind of a hedge against some of the events of the last couple of weeks. So, anyway, so liberating structure is one of those things, but I just don't know how to make a proposal. So I would sure appreciate somebody to clue me in about that.
Yeah, that's actually something that I've been wanting to work on in terms of having a proposal template that is publicly available to everybody to make sure kind of the guide through. And one of the things that I've been working on right now is the Gitbook page. If you can read over it, great. If you have any feedback or changes, please edit
Can you
them.
send me a link in the Communitas chat?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I just wanted to say Communitas working group, transparency, whatever working group you have, like there's a page there for you in the working groups that need to edit. Like make that page your own, if you can.
Okay. I have a question, and this is another question. We did a change to the proposal template that was existent on the forum, and we updated with Livy a few months ago. How is that not usable? I mean, the only thing that we based that, I think, based on Gitcoin and some other proposal templates, and the only thing that will change, if it is for tau voting or if it is for governance or whatever it is, the proposal vote is just the title. The rest of the proposal is basically the same.
Is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Nate, are you updating that one, or are you updating the old one?
No, and the old one is fine. It just it needs context. It needs kind of like an explanation of like why we're doing it, what you should be including, things of that nature. And so, you can provide a template and people will still be like, what am I supposed to put here? I find that we do that with the ZenHub issues as well. And so having a little bit of context, giving a little bit of outline of like what it means to fill out a proposal and how people will be interpreting it are all really important things to consider.
And I think it's also worth mentioning, like, is this, Durga, that you want to do a conviction voting proposal asking for funding to develop something? Or are you interested in some governance, like going through Snapshot and vote through the community without asking for funding, but to change the rules of how we govern the commons?
Is that a question for Durgaras, or?
Yeah.
I think Durgaras, are you there, or you froze? Yeah, you're frozen. I'm looking for the proposal that we created.
TEC handbook, so I can read it.
No, you are good, Durgaras. Yes, you can answer now. We didn't hear you before.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had a power outage here recently, and I'm not sure if it's still affecting my internet.
Perhaps you could repeat the question, Zepti.
Yeah, sure. Durga, that's actually like I make a question regarding like, do you want to make a proposal like for funding to develop something, or do you want to change the rules that how we manage the commons? Like this both have different processes, and yeah, maybe like if we know what you want, then we can just guide you better.
Yeah, so I think in my mind, I feel like the work that transparency is doing, it does rather seem that it should be expanded, but the feedback that I got is, well, there's like 3 people here. So, okay, so do we need to recruit for transparency? Do we need to put something on Twitter that we want journalists who are used to, documenting and looking into things and speaking truth to power? Do we need those people to come and be a part of, transparency? And then, if so, are there, what other things can we do to, make things more transparent, to make them more decentralized, make them more autonomous, right? And so, I guess my initial thing was just going to be a proposal to transparency to maybe take a look at what, the mandate of transparency is and what it could be, and, do a thing like we did with Gravity, for example, where we create a phased approach where we're saying here right now we're kind of depending on token engineering commons, but in phase 2 we're going to set up these other structures. In phase 3 we'll have a completely independent coin and everything on our own. I can see that quite a few communities could probably use some transparency in their groups too, right? So just like we're having this comms DAO thing spin off, so I just like to have a discussion about not only within the TEC, but potentially, those use cases that could apply to other DAOs, right? So that's kind of the work that we're doing here in Token Engineering Commons, is creating a template for their DAO. So I'm just, trying to find a positive place to, focus my attention based on what I've learned in the last month or so.
I mean,
Nate, on the screen. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, from what he said, from what you said, Turga, that, like, I think the best way to approach it is conviction voting. Like, you should, see the needs and then make a proposal and ask for funding, because right now with the funding we have in transparency is to cover, the audit and the operations we do regularly. So for, new tasks, we should do a new conviction voting proposal.
I mean, if you're going to review, like, if you're wanting to review the scope of transparency and what all they cover.
Well, it's I don't know if I got dropped off there, but I guess my point is that, I'd like to just take a look at the mandate of the working group and, say, okay, as a community, do we want to have this more transparent thing? It seems to me that, I've got enough feedback in the last 3 weeks to say that maybe we do. And so by then identifying what it is that we'd like to do, then we can come up with a budget and recruit people and so on, right? So that's what I'm talking about.
Quick question. Just trying to understand. So, like, this will imply, for example, revisiting the manifesto, updating, like, the purpose of the working group, like, and wouldn't be like a sort of a advice process to just go to the working group and then work on an update for the manifesto, and based on that update, then work on the following steps that are action items?
Yeah, totally.
Yes, get it.
Hey, so one thing to throw in is, like 2 weeks ago, we were having this issue with people having trouble buying the TEC token, right? And so, Zepti and Nate and I scrambled to try to pull together a how-to doc, and it kind of like brought up a bunch of questions about documentation and frequently asked questions and things like that. And I see that's on your on the agenda, Edu. But I think that the reason I'm bringing it up right now is that actually I think that these kinds of questions about how to engage with the community, how to do stuff, is actually a really important part of transparency. It's making sure that all of the services, all of the features, everything that we have here is easy for people to understand and use. So I guess, Durgadas, I've kind of framed the beginnings of the document, and Zepti too. Like I wanted to just kind of like put some initial thoughts down. It's kind of tied into some stuff that we've been thinking about with writers, like getting some writers on board. But I will send you a draft of this to just see like if this sparks some ideas. I think that this like this question of how to and facts, frequently asked questions, things like that. There's like an overlap between Communitas and transparency that's like really healthy and like could be, the source of some really important collaboration.
Yeah, there is an overlap. For me, transparency have to make sure of the accessibility. It doesn't have to work on necessarily on the information. We have a comms team, and I feel this is more of it falls into the comms team process because they are the first. Communitas and comms are the first point of contact for contributors or for people. So for those kind of users, we need to have the information clear, and we need to have this information accessible. So transparency for me makes sure that information is accessible, but the people who takes care of writing it or widespreading that information is either Communitas or comms. Because I feel that transparency duty, it goes on a more back end level, and we work on the front end level, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it could be. Sorry. It could be done at any level as long as it gets done. It doesn't matter which working group acknowledge it. For me, what is important but it's put in some budget. It doesn't get invisible, so people can feel the some kind of reward for working on this.
So what I'm sort of seeking here is some alignment, right? So whenever we've got a sense-making framework for this. So I feel like Communitas really is in the first half of the newcomer journey. So this is kind of poorly named right now, but hopefully we can create a new document about it. But it seems to me that there's certain aspects of comms and Communitas that are concerned with the awareness, consideration, and participation portion, right? And certainly
think you froze up on us.
Yes, it did.
Transparency, starting from the participation, retention, and advocacy. And so at the same time, I mean, the effects of and I think I've shown this in other places where let me just so I created a document that basically showed how there are really only two narratives here. There's the narrative up to and including participation, and then there's the narrative from participation onward. And so I think it's important when we're talking about which group is doing what, that we understand which narrative that group is engaged in. And I think what Gideon's talking about is making sure that the work that we're doing is contextualized editorially and from a from a narrative standpoint to be appropriately placed. Am I wrong about that, Gideon? Maybe you can reflect back.
Yeah, I don't want to hijack this meeting, but yeah, simply, I think at the simplest level, it's like, how do I do this thing, right? How do I purchase TEC? Or, it's like very simple things too, but also like, how does praise work? All these kinds of questions that we know people are running into. So like that kind of stuff. And then maybe there's more.
That's a bit more comms. Yeah. I would like to have like a offline meeting with you at some point soon, Gideon, just to kind of discuss some of these things. I'm aware you have that.
This is for me. This is for me. What you just mentioned, Drugadas, the importance of the narrative, and something we have sort of overlooked for the past year and a half, because we didn't do it. But I feel that there is this importance. This is what MS work and what you just showed, Drugadas, about the user journey was so important, because what you are just tackling, Gideon, with how to purchase DEC is just the part that we haven't finished of the user journey. We finished the onboarding part, we sort of have that already, but we don't have the following part. So if a user becomes a DEC shareholder, if a user becomes someone who wants to be educated, if the user, all these kind of possibilities, we never develop them because we never follow the process so far. We didn't have time or whatever. So I feel that we already had a pre kind of work on this of identifying the roles. I don't know if you remember this, Gideon, from previous conversation, that we identify areas of interest. And the idea of this is that if we identify these areas of interest, then we can develop then the action items or the documentation that we need to have for that user or that area of interest to be fully accomplished. So this was a mind map that MS put together that we work in our workshops. And it's very simple, but it's this idea of, if you are going to be an educational level, if you're going to be on educator level, if you're going to be a partnership, then what are the things that you need to have in all those levels? Then, for example, if you're an educator, then you need to have the FAQ for the educator. If you want to be a partnership, you need to have the how to purchase the EC tokens. So the idea is that what I would like to think is in a more holistic way, as Durga has mentioned, is not to think these action items of writing Medium articles or writing Gitbook articles just to do them, isolate them, but to contextualize and framework these action items in between a narrative, and to what just Durga has mentioned, to have it cohesiveness. So we don't do this overlap of, for example, 6 months ago, Jess created, for example, just to say an example, Jess created this proposal template, but no one revisited because it was not put in any workflow. So no one identified this as a part of a workflow. So no one actually had the reasons to update it. And this happens quite often. So my idea is to sort of contextualize this. And this is something that it's quite heavy to take on, because to build a user journey from the point of onboarding on means to also create a narrative for that user. And this is something we have sort of, avoid and come back and forth, and we have never finished that part. But this is what I would like to accomplish in the following months.
And we did do a bunch of that as a part of that visualization that you just saw. So we do have like an outline for those things, and it was always going to be that one was a very generic looking thing, but it would, I think this conversation between Gideon and I is better in a comms context. So maybe after this call, we could pop out and just do a sync on that. And then in the next comms things, which I think somebody already told me that you were working on an editorial thing, that I think is appropriate here. So.
Before you pass it on to Gideon, NT, welcome to Communitas Working Group call. If you are confused about any topic, if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask. We derail a little bit about our process for the user who enters the DAO. So if you need any context, you can write me up or any of the people here present. And now, Gideon, yes, you want to say something?
Thank you.
Yeah. Durgadas, we should definitely talk. I don't know, Edu, what's the status right now of the user journey? Where are we at with that right now? Can you give us like a quick update?
It's frozen. MS has been having a lot of situations with his professional work. So the day before yesterday, he asked me and Tam to please relieve him from the project of creating this user journey, because he feels he won't be able to do it on time or on a normal work base. And so basically it's up to take to anyone. And the idea, and this is something for everyone here, the idea is that this exercise of taking this journey on as a project, it's part of the community builder job or budget that is allocated for the role of community builder in this working group in our proposal. Right now, the community role is empty. I'm taking that role halfway there. So the idea when we create this budget with Ham is to have someone besides me working on this user journey. And originally it was a mess, now it is not. So that's open for anyone who feels like can take that on. Just kidding.
So I right now the things that I'm looking at are this kind of publishing strategy thing, and then documentation. But I feel like this user journey and just our engagement actually in the big picture is more important. You know, so I can't remember what the title of that is, but that role, it was MS and me were kind of playing that role. So I'm happy to take that on right now and see if we can push it forward. Durgadas, I'd be thrilled to have you kind of helping with some of the advice process on this, and whoever else is willing to and Edu, I'm assuming you'll want to be like deeply involved in that, and Nate, I don't know what your load is like, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm willing to do a push and maybe put this in front of definitely the documentation thing. I'm really excited about the publishing thing, and I think it could be very related to this. So I'm going to try to do, I don't want to let that go. So I'll throw that out as like a possibility.
Yeah, it seems to me they're all related, right? So,
Yeah.
And in my mind, I would say that comms is supposed to be almost like a service DAO for all of the rest of the working groups, right? So I think what we're talking about now is about establishing a narrative voice, which then means you create a coherent narrative around onboarding and around awareness, consideration, participation, advocate. All of those things need to have narratives created behind them, and understand and contextualize that. And we need to reproducibly do that, so that when we're going to parachute into another DAO, like a comms DAO, and say we're going to do this for you, we've got reproducible standardized processes that are easy to understand, sell, and assign people to. So from my perspective, this is a wholly comms thing, but at the same time, our customer in comms is the Communitas team, whose job it is to shepherd that thing. It's just the tools and the narrative voice and all the editorial and all that is, I think, a part of comms, and we should be able to leverage people like myself and Manu and Chewy and others to achieve the goals of the individual customers. So that's my view of it right now. So maybe another person might have a different one.
So yeah,
Nate,
if you don't mind, I think that the Writers Guild that Gideon is working on building right now, being separate from comms, is a really good organizational position for them to be in, as like the people that we rely on for content creation and narrative structures and things of that nature, where we say, hey, we need this type of stuff written, we need FAQs written, we need these information packets written. So it's like you take this onboarding journey and this little mind map that you have here, and you say, okay, we identify newcomers and where their interests lie, and we give them information packets for each step of the way, everything that they need to know. And those information packets can be written by this Writers Guild. And that way comms can focus on external communications, where you have kind of the Writers Guild in charge of doing both external and internal, but a lot of documentation. And then along with this map, we have the participation tracks, which I'm still working on, and I have limited capacity. So if anybody's interested in pushing this, carrying this through the end zone, please reach out to me.
Where is this map?
It's the one on the screen Edu has.
I just don't.
Yeah, it's not. I will share it to you.
Thank you.
Because it's not.
I guess.
Yet.
Go ahead. I don't.
Yeah.
We should move on. Probably.
Yeah. I don't want to take much more time of this. Just to bring awareness that there is also the deep skill people trying to help us with the how we find contributors. So there is a bunch of stuff that somehow we need to connect, and we somehow need to frame it. So basically, I asked MS to download whatever other thoughts he has as next steps, to just out of respect for his work and to respect what he thought could be good steps, and then incorporate that into an action item that could be deployed this week or next week. Intention, just to provide alignment, my intention is to move forward with the user journey in one way or another. And I do believe in small steps in order to accomplish bigger steps. So we and workshop on this and see to what extent our capacities and time bandwidth can do this. For example, if we think about the Writers Guild and the participation tracks as step 2 and step 3, then one needs to accomplish in step 1 to be able to allow the writers to do their job or to use the participation tracks effectively. But what I do not want is people's effort to just go into the nothing and wait 2-3 months and say, like, hey, but I have done this 4 months ago and I forgot it, and no one pay attention to that. I do not want this to happen. So if we have 5 people, 2 people writing documentation for us, it will be more meaningful if we have the structure to receive that information and be able to allocate it and distribute it correctly, and sitting documents that are just there doing nothing. So yeah, that's yeah.
Can I just throw out sorry.
Go ahead, Gideon, and then you pass it on to Douglas. Sorry.
Sure. One thing I guess what I would suggest is we have like a number of different things going on right now that all are kind of related, and maybe what I could do is try to just pull together in a document. It's like, these are the different things that are going on. These are like how these relate, and use that as kind of like a catalyst for some conversation about how we bring these things together, how we prioritize, how they relate to each other as a first step to kind of moving this forward. And kind of use that as a tool for an advice process in figuring out what our next steps are. Would that be agreeable to people?
Yep. I do feel like we've had several attempts at doing that, but because it's been different people over a long stretch of time, we don't have like an inventory of what all those efforts are right now. So whenever you're starting something new, an inventory is always the first phase, right? So I think that's a good idea. I'm just saying that because I've participated in so many of them for so long, I'm just happy to just be behind you and be supportive. And I've created a bunch of these narratives myself. So I have, I'll as I'm showing you on the screen right now, there's a bunch of that. So yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. So for me, it's this sync in between Durgara's. Do you hear me? Or my mic is still off? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, basically, I feel that the first action item is to sync with you guys, Gideon, Durgaras, and to choose first steps. Like you mentioned, Gideon, putting all these things together and choose from all the things that we have sort of going on. It's a nice step to move forward. And yeah, so it's fine. We don't have any of the guides here today. So going back, sorry, before we forgot, we did this agreement. If you guys, if any of you, for example, Gideon, Nate, or Durgaras wanna fill in into a special project or wanna take on any of the roles, please take this as a reference. We are gonna pay this month as part of the budget. So February counts as a month that will be paid. So just dropping that for transparency matters. So everyone feels included on this. Next items, it's FAQ. It goes along the same things. I will get into the questions this week. Again, I really like the document that you wrote. And I feel that it completely makes sense. Like once we have created easy to follow FAQ with the basics, then we can scale it up to community and to working groups and so on. For the time being, I will create the FAQ for the guides with the basic questions that we all time receive, and then we can sort of work it out afterwards. Because I feel you have the skills innate also for writing documents that I don't have because I'm not a native English speaker. So I will send it to you for filling up the blanks or for requests for grammar and all these verifications. Then we have we don't have much time left, mainly because I also have a time constriction in 7 minutes. But the proposal is up, as I mentioned. If you know anyone who haven't voted, please send in the link to vote. And this includes also what Durgaras mentioned, the next item of the agenda, which is the manifesto update. I feel it's a little bit of time since the last update, and I feel we should update it. So that's something I will probably take on and bring up for next meeting. So if you have the time and willingness to take a look and see if something that you want to see improved on the manifesto, feel free to share it on the text channel and so on. So I open the floor for the last 7 minutes. If there is something else you guys would like to talk about, or for example, if Inti or Benz, you have any question about what we just talked. I will count down to 0 and I pass it on to whoever will mute. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Ben.
A couple weeks ago, I think the last time I was on, we talked a little bit about metrics, and I think there was some overlap with what we were doing on SoftGov. Did anything come of that? I may have missed it. I don't know. It sounds like there's been a lot of other things that have been cooking, so I just wanted to check in on that.
I don't know exactly what in SoftGov is doing, but we didn't create any action items out of the data that we pull out from Discord. So that's still for us to be done. Do you want to provide context on SoftGov, Ben?
Yeah, I guess we were going through, like, it was kind of in the context of the Ostrom's 8 principles, and like setting up metrics around how the TEC was doing in regards to those things. But I think, like, just thinking about metrics in that way has a lot of overlap with, if you are setting up this user journey, doing this onboarding, and it sounds like we're doing a good job of that. Edu, you're being kind of implementing some of these things for ENS. It would make sense that, like, we'd also have some good standardized metrics that you can compare other methods, so like across DAOs. So that's something that's interesting to me. But yeah, I just wanted to see if that had.
Is that something you will be interested on digging, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. I want to be careful to not over commit myself. I'm still kind of like trying out a bunch of little different things, but
sure.
Would
you like to, for example, we can agree to a 30 minutes 1-on-1, and then I can explain you what we have, and then if that fancy your boat, then you can tell me, and then we can then progress on that. But then I can explain you first what we have, and then based on that, you decide if that's something interesting for you or not. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. So do you want to just set up a one-on-one, figure that out after? Okay.
Yes.
Sounds
good. And Ben,
look
in the Communitas channel. I just found what Forefront is doing on that track. It's really cool. I put a link in there so you can take a look and see.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Looks like we may have lost Edu.
Oh,
frozen.
Yeah. That's a really cool dashboard, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can create something similar with Google Data Studio.
Yeah. And another
I'm in the same position than Ben's. I don't want to be like or promising things, but if you need help, I'm here to support you with these kind of things. Like, for example, to create a dashboard, I can create one for you guys on Google Data Studio with the metrics you want to measure.
See, I have a question about this kind of thing. I think one of the one of these sort of structural issues is tech is the solution, right? So what we need is a piece of software to give us cool graphs, and that's neat and all, but it doesn't fix the underlying psychological shadow stuff that I'm concerned with at this point. So I'm also not sure that it helps a lot in the onboarding journey and stuff. It might help in terms of retention, so maybe we could dashboarding is a cool sort of thing, but I think narratively it slots in a little bit more in the participation onward narrative, so I don't know, maybe it's just me, but whenever I'm looking at a piece of thing, I like to make sure that we're doing sort of shared sense making around it to figure out where it's positioned in the framework of the overall user journey, not necessarily the newcomer journey, but the customer touch points and all that stuff. So so maybe when we're making suggestions, we could contextualize what we're doing in terms of that journey.
Sorry, Janae, my internet got cut, so I didn't hear what you just said about metrics. I heard you, Durgara, so thank you for that. Can you repeat that, Janae, one more time? Sorry.
Sure. I was saying that I'm in the same, like more or less in the same position that Ben's, but if you need help with metrics, I can create a dashboard similar that one that was shared on the Communitas channel, but with Google Data Studio, which is a tool that I know how to use. But just
perfect. Would
just
you like to join? Would you like to join the meeting with Benz?
Sure. Yes. Why not? Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll set up just a DM to you two, and we can sort out a time. Would anyone else want to be on that, or should I do that in the actual channel? What's the preferred?
You can put it in the channel so everyone can, if they feel like they can access it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
All right, everyone. Does anyone want to say something else before we close up? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.